In the Form ADV that Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission on September 28, 2006, Item 5C asked how many advisory clients the firm had served during its most recently completed fiscal year. Madoff checked 11 to 25. In Item 5F, the same filing reported $17,091,640,696 in discretionary assets under management across 23 accounts. $17,091,000,000, 23 accounts, that is roughly $750 million per account. The Securities and Exchange Commission received this filing. No inquiry followed. By the time of that filing, Madoff's advisory business represented thousands of underlying investors through a combination of direct accounts and feeder funds. This is the story of what Madoff's own filing said, what the SEC's examiners had on their desks across 6 separate inquiries, and what a forensic analyst told regulators, in writing years before the collapse, about a strategy that was mathematically impossible at the scale it was being claimed. Bernard Madoff operated 2 businesses under one name. The first was Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities, the broker-dealer. It was a legitimate operation. By the 1990s, it was one of the largest market makers on the Nasdaq. It had technology, staff, regulatory filings, and a spotless examination history. It was the business everyone saw. The second was the investment advisory division. It managed money for wealthy individuals, family offices, and a network of feeder funds. It had no public presence. For most of its existence, it had no SEC registration at all. Madoff resisted registering the advisory business for years. Multiple regulatory inquiries in the early 2000s created enough pressure that registration was no longer avoidable. On September 28, 2006, BLMIS filed its first Form ADV. The document was signed under penalty of perjury. Item 5C, 11 to 25 clients. Item 5F, $17,091,640,696 across 23 accounts. Both figures appear within the same regulatory filing. The figures do not reconcile. The SEC received this filing. No inquiry followed. Harry Markopolos was not a regulator. He was a derivatives analyst at a Boston asset management firm, and in 1999, a colleague asked him to reverse engineer what Madoff was doing, to figure out what strategy could produce the consistency Madoff was showing investors. Positive returns, month after month, in up markets and down markets, with almost no volatility. Markopolos concluded within 4 hours that it was mathematically impossible. The more he tested the numbers, the worse they became. He submitted his first formal complaint to the SEC's Boston office in May 2000. He submitted a revised version in March 2001. In October 2005, he submitted a 35-page document to the SEC's New York regional office, addressed to Mian Chung, branch chief. The title of that document was, "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." In the submission's opening paragraph, Markopolos identified himself as the original source for the information and stated that Madoff Investment Securities was the world's largest Ponzi scheme. It then enumerated approximately 30 specific red flags. Flag number 1, the split-strike conversion strategy at Madoff's stated scale would have required options positions larger than the entire publicly reported open interest in S&P 100 contracts. There were not enough contracts in existence. Flag number 3, Madoff's auditor was a 3-person firm in Rockland County, New York, with 1 active accountant. No major Wall Street firm used a sole practitioner auditor to sign off on billions in managed assets. Chung's office assigned the complaint to a junior examiner. No formal investigation was opened. The examiner closed the inquiry within months. Madoff's stated strategy, the split-strike conversion, is a genuine option strategy. The mechanics are standard: hold a basket of large-cap equities, sell covered calls above the current price to generate income, buy put options below the current price to limit downside. The result is steady, moderate returns with low volatility. What was unusual was the scale. By 2005, BLMIS claimed to manage approximately $13 billion this way. The positions would have required options on S&P 100 constituents in quantities that exceeded the entire open interest in those contracts on any given trading day. There simply were not enough contracts available in the market. The trade could not have been executed. SEC examiners who reviewed BLMIS in 2004 and 2005 noted the strategy in their work papers. None consulted the SEC's own derivative specialists to evaluate whether execution at that scale was possible. No major derivatives desk on Wall Street had ever reported Madoff as a counterparty, a fact that appeared in Markopolos' submission and was not followed up. Every legitimate equity trade in the United States settles through the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. Trades that do not clear through the DTCC, with narrow exceptions, did not happen. BLMIS had a DTCC account. SEC examiners knew it existed. They did not pull the records. The SEC's Inspector General Report, published August 31, 2009, report number OIG 509, 477 pages, found that during the 2005 and 2006 examinations of BLMIS, examiners did not contact the DTCC to verify whether the trades shown on customer statements had been executed. Examiners accepted trade confirmations produced by BLMIS itself, documents that Madoff staff printed in-house and handed to investigators, as evidence of trades that DTCC records would have shown did not exist. Had any examiner requested DTCC records for any single BLMIS customer account, the file would have shown no activity corresponding to the positions on that customer's statement. The OIG report also found that examiners never contacted the Options Clearing Corporation to verify whether the options trades Madoff claimed to execute had been cleared. That verification, the report notes, could have been completed in a single request. Between 1992 and 2008, the SEC received 6 substantive complaints alleging that Madoff was operating a fraud. The earliest came in 1992 from auditors examining a Florida feeder fund. The most detailed came in 2005 from Markopolos. The SEC opened 2 formal investigations and conducted 3 examinations during that period. Across all 5 proceedings, SEC staff did not verify trades with the DTCC, did not obtain independent confirmation of account balances from any custodian, did not contact the OCC to confirm options activity, did not reach out directly to any BLMIS client to verify their statements, and did not consult the SEC's own derivative specialists about whether the strategy was executable at the stated scale. The OIG report's conclusion on this sequence is direct. The SEC received more than ample information in the form of detailed and substantive complaints over the years to warrant a thorough and comprehensive examination and/or investigation of Madoff for operating a Ponzi scheme, and that a thorough and competent examination and/or investigation would have uncovered the Ponzi scheme well before Madoff confessed in December 2008. The report does not characterize the failures as misconduct. It characterizes them as a failure of basic examination procedure. Several examiners stated in interviews that Madoff's stature, he had served as chairman of NASDAQ, affected how his firm was approached. Fairfield Greenwich Group was BLMIS's largest feeder fund. At the time of collapse, Fairfield had placed $7.5 billion of client capital with Madoff. Their flagship product, Fairfield Sentry, had operated since 1990. Its marketing materials described extensive due diligence applied to the underlying manager. The CIPA trustee, Irving Picard, filed a complaint against Fairfield Greenwich in December 2010, alleging that the fund's partners had received multiple warnings about Madoff's strategy over the years and had not investigated them. The complaint cites internal emails in which Fairfield Greenwich partners discussed the implausibility of the reported returns and whether continued inquiry was consistent with the fund's commercial interests. Fairfield Greenwich settled with the trustee in 2016 for $235 million, distributed to BLMIS victims through the CIPA liquidation fund. The fund's due diligence certifications, the documents it provided to clients describing its verification practices, were the subject of a separate civil action. Investors who had relied on those certifications as representations of actual procedure were among the named plaintiffs. On the evening of December 9, 2008, Madoff told his sons, Mark and Andrew, both of whom worked in the broker-dealer division, that the investment advisory business was insolvent. His sons consulted an attorney that night. The following morning, they contacted the FBI. Federal agents arrested Madoff at his Manhattan apartment on December 11, 2008. The SEC filed its civil complaint the same afternoon, case number 08-CV-10791, Southern District of New York. On March 12, 2009, Madoff entered a guilty plea in the Southern District of New York. In his allocution, he told the court that he accepted full responsibility and blamed no one else. He stated that he had never invested client funds in the securities he had promised to buy. Instead, he had deposited that money in a business checking account. Irving Picard was appointed cyber trustee for the BLMIS liquidation on December 15, 2008. His team spent the following years reconstructing the actual transaction history of the investment advisory business from internal records. What they found was a parallel bookkeeping infrastructure. The broker-dealer maintained a standard set of records. The investment advisory division maintained a separate system, a transaction log that generated fabricated trade confirmations, fabricated portfolio positions, and fabricated monthly statements. The system had been programmed to produce returns consistent with Madoff's stated strategy, not to record actual market activity. Customer statements reflected decades of fictitious compounding. A client who had deposited $1 million in 1995 and never withdrawn would have seen a balance of $4 or $5 million on their December 2008 statement. None of that appreciation had occurred. Picard's office determined that total principal invested, money that had actually entered BLMIS accounts, was approximately $17.179 billion. The total shown on customer statements at collapse was approximately $64.8 billion. The $47.6 billion difference was fabricated. As of October 31, 2025, the trustee had recovered or reached agreements to recover approximately $14.833 billion, with approximately $14.67 billion distributed to eligible claimants. The SEC's Inspector General published Report OIG 509 on August 31, 2009. It runs 477 pages. No enforcement action was taken against any SEC employee as a result of the report. The report recommends that the SEC adopt a policy requiring independent third-party trade verification for all registered investment advisors under examination, and that examiners be required to consult internal derivatives specialists when reviewing strategies they cannot independently evaluate. These procedures were not in place when BLMIS filed its Form ADV in September 2006. They were not in place when that filing reported $17.091 billion in assets under 23 accounts, and no one checked the arithmetic. For 17 years, Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities was periodically examined by the one regulator whose job was to catch exactly this: the trade confirmations, the clearinghouse settlement records, the options volume that would have had to exist to produce Madoff's reported returns. None of it lined up, and SEC examiners had every document they needed to see the mismatch. They reviewed the firm in 1992, 2004, 2005, 2006, and 2007. Each time, they closed the file. Investors were told they held positions in a fund run by a former NASDAQ chairman, audited annually, registered with the SEC, and generating returns so consistent that redemptions were treated as a formality. The audit was signed by a three-person firm operating out of a small office in New City, New York. The trades never happened. The account statements were produced in-house using numbers no exchange had ever recorded. Madoff is a story about a regulator holding the paperwork and failing to act on it. The next case is the opposite failure, a regulator that wrote the warning down in plain language in a document anyone could have read more than a year before the money actually disappeared. Next, on hidden liabilities, an 11-page consent order issued April 9, 2023, stating in regulatory language that a banking middleware company had lost track of whose money was whose. The company kept operating for another 18 months. By the time anyone outside the regulator's office understood what page 7 meant, $109 million in customer deposits belonged to accounts that no longer legally existed. If you want to follow where the documents go next, subscribe.